hearing my voice, but too bad, you're here. So my name is Tony Wells. I am a mom of 4 now teens, almost grown. My boys live in Calgary. My daughter just started medical school in Saskatoon, and my youngest is graduating from Lumsden High School this year. Yay! So this is near and dear to my heart. I've been an activist probably as long as I've been alive. And when they call me a drama queen, I guess they weren't wrong. I was right. So there's that. But being a mom, being a single mom, you know, I have a very strong moral compass. I am a Christian woman, and God does reign in my life. Every decision that I make the best decision for my children. And as a single mom, I know that I can't go wrong if I make the best decision for my children. So when this stuff all started coming in, and we'll back up, even a couple of years ago, I am unvaxxed.
Yeah! Yeah! Praise God! Yeah!
I did leave the sheriff's department because I'm headstrong and I'm Irish and I didn't want to.
Yeah, good for you, yeah!
I'm a firm believer in standing up and showing my children how to be. I can't ask my children to live a certain life, to be a certain way, if I'm not that person. So for our kids, we are the example to our children. Our children are little sponges. How many of the first time you guys heard your little ones pop off a swear word and you're like, uh-oh, I must have said that out loud somewhere. You know you did. You know that your kids are gonna pick up whatever you put down because your mom, your dad, you're the favorite uncle. You're the fun auntie that hops them up on sugar smacks and sends them back to their mom. Oh no, that's just me? Yeah, that's not just me. I know y'all. Grandmas and grandpas do that too. Okay, that's their right as grandparents to hop them up on sugar smacks and send them back to their parents.
There you go. Yeah! I like it.
My adopted grandbaby is 7 months old right now, so I do the same thing. It's good times. But my point to this is that when we have a responsibility as parents, we have a responsibility to our children and to our grandchildren, to their children's children. And so much has changed since we were little.
Oh yeah.
I came here, I get to say it, I'm a white immigrant. That always freaks people out. They're like, you don't know what it's like to be an immigrant. And I'm like, oh, I do, Ireland's far away. But we have a right and responsibility. And when we come here and we stand together as a multicultural group, look around.
Yes.
How often do you guys see this? How often does our government push the divide in amongst us?
Yes. Yeah.
And this is going to send a very clear message that we will not be divided. And I said this a long time ago. I don't know what it's going to take to get parents to stand up. I can openly say this very, very clearly. Thank you to the alpha men that showed up.
Yeah.
Give them a big round of applause. That is huge. As a mama bear, it's usually me and a bunch of women stomping our feet. Right? Someone hear me roar. Well, today, let me tell you, I have a problem. I have umpteen men that I can actually just ask. And they will stand and surround it and make sure that we are okay. This is how it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pushing men out of our lives. Okay, this is not the government's job. This is not teacher's job. This is a mom and dad, whether you're single, whether you're divorced, whether you're married, whatever the case may be. Our kids need us unified. They need to see us standing up in kindness and in love, because that's what they're going to reflect at school. So what if the media wanted to know, what if about this transgender in schools and are gay kids allowed in schools? And I said, of course they are. I don't know what you've been doing to your child in school, but I've been teaching my children to be loving and to be kind and to accept everybody everywhere. And if you haven't been teaching your child that, we have whole new issues. Right? How many of you taught your kids to share?
Yep.
Right? How many of you guys taught your kids to use polite words? To use your words and say pleases and thank yous?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So as parents, you're already teaching them how to be kind and how to be loving and how to accept each other where they're at. Why do we need the Saskatchewan Federated Teachers Association to come in and tell me how to do it?
That's
We
right.
don't.
Yeah.
We do not need the unions to come in and tell me how to parent. Last time I checked, my kids were 10 and a half pounds. I've had 4 of them. That's 43 pounds a baby. Thank you very much.
Yeah, put them back in their lane. Put them back in their lane.
Yeah, well, I drive on the other side of the road, so they're not safe anymore. We don't need the government interfering. This isn't about hate. This isn't about you saying that you can be this person and you want to identify as this person. I identify as a billionaire. The bank keeps telling me I'm wrong. I'm going to take issue with that pretty quick when I have to pay my rent. But we want what we want for our children, and we are their parents, and nobody is going to take that away from us. If you are part of the union, if you guys haven't heard me say this already, you can delegate your union dues to the charity of your choice. You want to crush the unions? Take their money.
Yeah.
If you are not in agreement with what CUPE, with what all the unions are doing across the board, send your union dues to the charity of your choice. Cripple them.
Yes. Yes.
How many of you guys pay union dues? How many of you guys have the choice to pay union dues? Right? It's not a choice. You're going to take my money whether I like it or not. But I'll do you one better. I'm going to give it to a charity that I agree with. Because I'm a parent. I care about my children. You don't. You are trying to sexually ideology my children. And what happens when kids get told, it's okay. Premarital sex is okay. Somebody touching you is okay. Oh, that just means they like you. No, that means you're a pedophile.
Yes.
Yep.
Uh-oh, I'm bringing out the big words. The words that nobody wanted to say, but Tony will say it out loud because that's what I do. I am a sexual abuse survivor.
Wow.
I'm a rape survivor. And those people that did that to me weren't sitting there telling me that it was okay to feel like that. They told me not to tell my parents. Come on. This has got to send alarm bells up for our babies. No more. When you are trying to groom our children and to push an agenda, we say no. There's approximately,
No.
1,000 some, my mathing is really bad, so I don't know how many people were here, but there is a lot. And I'm so glad that you guys signed the petition, but I want you guys to stay on top of your school boards. Has anybody here thought of running for a school board position? Love it. Come on, guys. He's gonna do it now. Everybody's gonna do it now. I wanna be clear on something that may not be known. It's not hard. Have you seen the monkeys that are in there? Right? It's not hard. And most of the time, the people that are sitting on the board are only sitting there because they have not been countered by somebody else running. So imagine if you were a new face and you were to say to the public school, Catholic school, my kids go to PVSD, you know what? I want to be on the board. I want to displace this crap and I want to make a decision in my child's life and in their education. Sweet, sign up. Go tell your friends to support you. Chances are you're going to make the board. Do you have a couple of hours to spare a week? Because if y'all say no and you have kids, I'm going to be mad. Like, I got 4 and seriously, I have no time, but I'm making time. Go and get yourself elected onto the school boards. Make the change. Be the change that you want to be. Who said that? There we go, Gandhi. I was like waiting, I don't know, there's like some quiet little voice. So I want to encourage you guys to stand up, get elected for the boards, look at your political parties, start questioning your politicians. I know, hold on, I said the political word, right? Tony, I'm not very political. I don't know if I can do this. I don't like being political. Oh, okay, well, I'll do it for you, but my voice isn't going to do a whole lot just by myself. You guys need to stand up. This isn't going to stop. And having rallies like this is absolutely phenomenal, and it is great, and it's great to bring awareness, but we need to keep the forward momentum going.
Yes.
We need to get to the school boards. We need to tell them that it ends. We need to drain the unions of their money, and we need to take care of our kids the only way that a parent can. I've said it once and I'll say it 100 times. Nobody will love my children the way that I do as their parent.
Yes.
That's right. True.
So we're just going to do a couple of speakers. I know Futuni, if you want to come on up. She's just going to share some words here, and then I'm going to bring up, we've got Mike Young here, who I don't know if you guys saw my excitement, but I'm blooming excited he's here. It's either that or hell froze over. One of the two. So let's give her a warm welcome.
Yeah.
Hi, Auntie. My name is Fatini. I used to work as a registered nurse until I left my job to be a full-time mom 13 years ago. 2 of my boys are on the autism spectrum, and I'd just like to talk a bit about a recent conversation that I had over email with one of our social workers. I'm a curious person, and I'm not afraid to talk or to ask questions. And I think that this is all it will take for us to regain a bit of sanity in our country again, because the only thing that the other side is really relying upon are emotions and political fear tactics, which I hope you will see by the end of my talk. Upon noticing a pronoun change in our autism clinician's email signature, I decided to ask him, what sparked the change? Apparently, everyone at the SHA Autism Center in Regina now uses pronouns in their name after an educational session with the Trans Health Navigators. What is a Trans Health Navigator, and what research have they given you to go off of in your decision to provide gender-affirming care for our youth? These 4 papers are what I was given. These 4 papers are apparently the things that our healthcare providers are leaning on when making life-altering decisions. Life-altering decisions such as whether or not to place a child on life-altering drugs like Lupron, which is commonly given to sex offenders as chemical castration, and which will inhibit calcium accumulation in a child's growing bones. These 4 papers are what I would like to share with you today. This first article is a survey that was sent out to 608 transgender youth with a mean age of 20.5 years old, asking about their unmet needs for gender-affirming care. Healthcare workers in this province are basing life-altering decisions on a survey sent out to 608 20-something-year-olds. Is this the game show Family Feud, where survey says what to do with our children's genitalia? Seriously? The second studied the outcomes of gender-affirming care, puberty blockers and gender-affirming hormones in 104 youths with a mean age of 15.8 years over a 1-year period. Where's the study showing how these 104 youth felt at 2, 5, or 10 years out? I know a lot of people who were happy with their tattoos when they were 15.8 years old, but really regretted them as adults. Where's the long-term data? The third study used a much larger sample, 11,914 trans or non-binary youth. The results? The survey looked at a 2-week time period, which showed that kids receiving hormone therapies were less likely to have thoughts of suicide. But it also suggested that kids who aren't taking gender-affirming hormones might not be getting along with their parents or have a lot of family supports. Considering that it also takes 18 to 24 months to achieve full effect with gender-affirming hormone therapy, a 2-week time frame means absolutely nothing. This study is not worth the paper that it is printed on.
Way to go, man! Yeah!
The 4th paper was a toolkit for frontline workers on battling misinformation. I haven't had the time to look at all of the studies cited in this toolkit yet, but so far the methodologies look just as scary as the last 3 studies that I referenced. The first one that I pulled up cited their research study as a SurveyMonkey questionnaire sent out to physicians. The summary of that SurveyMonkey study would be that 57% of physicians who responded encountered at least one patient with regrets to surgical intervention, be that gender regret, social regret, or medical regret, which the researchers felt to be a low number. If even one person comes back to their doctor with feelings of regret after having had an irreversible mastectomy or irreversible removal of their testicles, does that not mean we should maybe consider making criteria for accessing these kinds of surgeries a little more stringent? The social worker who sent me these articles and who personally supports gender-affirming care even admitted to me, and I am quoting word for word, that there is a need for long-term studies regarding those who detransition, as there is little research in this area. But the current research does indicate a prevalence of between 1 to 13% Studies have also found that regret is one of many factors for seeking detransition, and that detransition does occur without regret present. Other studies have also found that even after experiencing gender-affirming care, that high suicide rates remain when compared to the general population. I wonder what the 1 to 13% regret rates might look like if we studied any of this in the long term. And if they still have high rates of suicide after gender-affirming care, then what is all of this rhetoric about, would you rather have a trans kid or would you rather have a dead kid? Let's reframe that statement to reflect reality. Would you rather have a dead kid or would you rather have a dead trans kid? Because they all seem to be suicidal even after we give them these drugs and surgeries.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
The only misinformation out there is a misinformation coming from the transgender lobby. Denmark, Finland, UK, and Sweden have recognized this and are pulling back. Let's urge our government here to do the same.
Yeah.
Allowing for parental consent for kids social transitioning in schools is the bare minimum.
Yep.
I urge everyone here to email our Ministers of Health, the Honourable Everett Hindley and Honourable Tom McLeod, and our Minister of Social Services, the Honourable Jean Mikowski, telling them to put a halt on all gender-affirming care as regards youth until we have more robust and long-term data.
Yes. Yeah.
Educate yourselves. I have here the Saskatchewan Medical Transition Guide. Look at what they're doing to these kids. Google what sex change surgeries actually involve and share it with others. When teachers in this province, and apparently daycare workers who are telling 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids that they can be whatever gender they want, are they honestly showing them pictures of a 5-centimeter neopenis and describing how it can't penetrate anything or produce semen? How you will likely still need to pee sitting down? Are they talking about how you will need to pump up your neo-vagina 3 times a day to keep it from collapsing internally?
Wow. Yeah, that's right. That's what happens. Shame!
Or that you'll have a 30% chance of being incontinent. If Planned Parenthood, SOGI 123, and the NDP really want trans-inclusive sex ed, start sending pictures of gender change surgeries to Mira Conway and Elena Young to make sure that those pictures get shown in our classrooms.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid to be curious and to talk and to ask questions. Every time that I go into a store with a trans flag on the door that says, "Everyone welcome," I take 10 minutes out of my busy day to talk to the manager and to explain what the transgender flag symbolizes to me. Biological males in women's sport, change rooms and other safe places, and irreversible mastectomies in 16-year-old girls. I suggest that the transgender flag does the opposite of making me feel welcome. And this past year, I've seen a lot less of those flags up. If every one of us here today does the same thing, then there'll be even less the year after that.
Yeah. Yes.
If everyone here of us today takes these kind of articles to the government and says, "Not on my tax dollar, not without more robust data," and hands off my kids, a generation of children will be spared from what Lois Cardinal is currently experiencing. This woman, wrong. Okay, thank you. This trans woman from a First Nations reserve near St. Paul, Alberta, was recently denied euthanasia in Canada over her concerns of constant pressure, pain, and discomfort in her neo-vagina. "I'm supposed to be content with numbing cream that doesn't work," she said, slamming doctors for being more interested in what pronouns she uses than easing her pain. I'm so very sorry for people like Lois. While I don't care the least bit about what her pronouns are, I do care about her as a person. I do care about the pain that she is experiencing, and this is what our side stands for. People in the media will say that we're here for hate, and we're not. We're here because we love people, and we're here today because we care.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, you want that? Okay, well that one's off and this one's on, and thank you so much for that. Again, it's a reminder that this is about loving each other, and this is about the fact that we don't have enough research to help these people after they transition, or if they have transition regret. Imagine what we're doing to our little ones that aren't even going to understand that. This is not due diligence. This is not an education thing. They're not telling these kids what happens when they transition. They're not telling these kids what the implications are because the kids can't handle it. Well, no poop, Sherlock. No, the kids can't handle it. They can't handle it, and nor should they. And as long as we stand as parents, they will never understand it. So I want to welcome up Mike Young. He is a great friend of mine. We've known each other for a while. We don't always see eye to eye, but we have some really great talks about it. He's just so full of knowledge and so full of love. So I hope you guys just stick around, hear what he has to say, and I'm sure he'll stick around for questions later. I don't actually know, but he's going to now. So please welcome Mike Young.
Yeah.
I just want to start out by saying how much I love what I'm seeing here. I love the fact that we had the political right finally managed to hold a rally successfully, and it was large. So good job.
Yeah. Independence parties. Independence parties.
Okay, so I want to talk about a few things. The first thing I want to hit on is what the previous woman was saying. There's an absurdity that lies at the heart of the gender ideology, which no one seems to talk about, no one wants to hit on, so I'm going to hit on it. And that's, they parse this difference between sex and gender and say those aren't the same thing. Okay, if you're changing your gender and that has nothing to do with sex, why do you need a surgery? Nobody ever asks that question. What is the point? What is the goal of the surgery? If gender has nothing to do with biology, why does gender-affirming surgery need to change the hormones, or reconfigure the genitals, or have a mastectomy? What's the point of all that? And the answer is that the ideology is itself entirely incoherent. They make whatever claim they need to make at any particular time to get whatever particular result they want, and the result is a whole host of claims, all of which contradict each other. Does that make sense to everyone? Is everyone following me? This is the instrumental use of language. They will adopt whatever position they need to adopt to get what they want through, and then, after having adopted that position, immediately swap and pick up another position in order to get whatever else they want through. And the result is that all of this is incoherent. Okay? And I want to hit that hard because there is a manipulation of the language that occurs. They slide around in language, and they equivocate between closely related concepts with important distinctions in order to sneak their ideology in. So they'll equivocate and waffle back and forth between the meaning of sex and gender. They'll blur the lines between male and female. They will undercut, undermine, subvert, and otherwise deconstruct the meaning of terms, attempt to redefine the word. That's why they can't decide what a woman is. If you ask them for a straightforward definition, they can't give you one. Why? Because they want to be able to keep the definitions vague and fuzzy and blurry so they can slide around in language. Okay? So that's the first point I wanted to make, and I think it's important to hit on that because the linguistic manipulation and what would you call it, the tactical maneuvers that they make using language are very important to understand. Because almost everything that they do revolves around a manipulation of language. So I just want to touch on that point again and say that the new meme has been that children are not property, you don't own your kids. Okay? And that is an attempt to undermine the parental rights. Does everyone follow that?
Yep.
They want to be able to rip your parental rights from you by saying, well, you don't own the child like property. That was never the point. The child does not belong to me in the sense that I own him like I own, a phone or some cheese. The point is that the child is my responsibility, and that I have ownership over the responsibility, the care, and protection of the child, and it is my job to determine what is best for my son. Everyone follow that?
Yes.
The linguistic manipulation is going to be done using the word belong. They're going to say children don't own their parents like property, and then they'll slide to children don't belong to their parents. Where the sense of belong there will be in the sense of property, when the correct response is children or parents are responsible for their children. And children belong to their parents in the sense of family. They are part of families, and what the government does not get to do is wedge and break apart families in the name of a political ideology that's being brought about by a small minority of people using obscure theories from the 60s, 70s, and 80s to try and rip this country apart. Everyone follow that?
Yep.
You are not entitled to say, we've invented a new theory that says men can become women. Okay. So now we get to take your kids away if you don't agree with us. Sorry, that's not how this is going to work. The last thing I'd like to touch on, I think, is I'd like to make a point about education. And I think the reason why this rally is happening is because there was a confluence, a mixture, a kind of tension that occurred once the gender ideology, what in the academic literature is called queer theory, started making its way into schools. And the question I think most people are wondering is, why on earth is this stuff being taught in schools at all?
Yeah.
Okay? How did it come to be the case that someone sat around and said, you know what? While you're playing with your animal crackers and your glue, don't eat the glue stick, stop that. Put that away. Okay, we're now going to talk about sexuality with you. How did that get off the ground? And so what I'd like to do is go through a brief history of how this occurred and why it occurred. But before we do that, I'd like to use an analogy of something, because there's a tool that we need to pick up before we fully understand this. During World War II, the British used to try to attack the German aircraft while they were still on the ground. The goal was to bomb the Nazi aircraft before they could get into the air to harm anyone. And so what the British would do is they would send their planes over Germany and try to bomb the German planes while they were on the runway. And one of the things that the Germans ended up doing is making dummy aircraft. They would, out of cardboard or cheap wood, they would construct fake aircraft, and they would put those out so that the British would bomb the fake airplanes. And then the Germans would roll out the real airplanes after the British went away, and they would fly out and they would go and attack. I wonder how much of the losses that we've taken in the culture is because we've been spending our time bombing the fake aircraft while the real planes of gender ideology and leftist ideology and leftist politics have been flying through our schools the entire time. Does everyone follow that?
Yep.
How long have we been aiming at the wrong target? How long have we been focused on distractions rather than on the real issue? And that is a serious problem, and we need to address it at some point. Also during World War II, there was a general who, when they were going up the beach on Normandy, there was a small motte, a small stone building, and there was a nest of German machine gunners in there, and the general told one of his colonels and said, "Go take that building." And the colonel said, I can't. The general said, "Well, why not?" And the colonel said, "I don't know how to take a building." And the general said, you don't know how to take a building? How did you get in the army if you don't know how to take a building? He said, "I don't know how." So the general said, "Okay, watch me." And at the age of, I think, 57, 58, he gets up, says, "Follow me," leads the guy up the beach, throws the grenades, does everything he needs to do, and takes the building. I think that those of us who oppose this gender nonsense, many of us don't know how to take a building. We don't know how to take a school board back. We don't know how to take a school back. We don't know how to take a university back. We don't know how to protect our mosques, synagogues, and churches. We don't know how to protect our institutions from the people who want to take our institutions over and turn them out away from schools. They want to take our schools, our churches, our mosques, and all our other institutions and turn them from our social institutions for, say, art and religion and education, and turn them all into factories for reproducing woke ideology. That is what they're trying to
That's
do.
what they're trying to do, yeah.
And we have not figured out how to stop this. Vote them out is one thing, but you can't vote people out of a university, so you're going to have to develop new tactics. You're going to have to develop new tactics in your church. You're going to have to develop new tactics for every social institution. We're going to have to talk about that. But to focus on education for a minute, the politicization of education coming from the left starts, very likely, with a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which was written by Paulo Freire back in the 70s. Freire was a Brazilian Marxist, and Freire was trying to solve the question of, why isn't everything communist? And that's what he wanted to know. Why isn't everything communist? And his solution, or at least one of his solutions, was to say that all of education, everything from kindergarten right up to your PhD, is political. Root and branch, top to bottom, front to back. That was his theory. And his belief was that education should be political. It should be politicized, and that his Marxist, communist beliefs ought to be the ones that are taught in schools. To give you a little bit, just a touch of an inkling of how influential Paulo Freire is, I want to talk about citations for a moment. Academic citations are a measure of how influential somebody is. So somebody like Albert Einstein has like 180,000 citations. Pretty good. Einstein has something like 100, somebody like Charles Darwin might have 130,000 citations. Jordan Peterson right now has about 27,000 citations. Paulo Freire, at last count, had 411,000 citations in the academic literature, almost all of which is in education. He is the most cited education theorist in the education colleges and in the academic work. And his explicit goal was to politicize education with the goal of inculcating and indoctrinating your children into his ideology. His work was later picked up by Henry Giroux, who mixed it in with certain themes from postmodernism, and has been further picked up by people like McIntosh. Peter McLaren is another big name. All of these men. Gloria Ladson-Billings is another one who mixed it with critical race theory and came up with critical race pedagogy. All of these methods and tools were created with the goal of using the K-12 education system as a factory for indoctrinating your children into a very specific political ideology. That is their goal. And they are very, very explicit about this in the literature. Time and time and time again. They go on like this for pages. And it's not just one or two people. All of the leading theorists of education are hopped in on this. Henry Giroux is another guy who has something like 130,000 citations, has stated that his explicit goal is to make pedagogy more political. He states that very, very clearly, and that the lens that he wants to use to do this is the lens of neo-Marxism. These people have a very specific political ideology, and they want to use your schools as a place to produce people who agree with their political ideology. To put it in a somewhat crude, but I hope funny manner, conservatives reproduce in the bedroom, leftists reproduce in the classroom. They teach their ideology to your kids. And this is why they want to make sure that you can't say no. Because when you say, that's enough, stop, no more, you can't do this, they want to be able to say, you can't, no, we're going to take your kid away. When you say, Jimmy, your teacher's political ideas are silly, stop listening to that, they want to be say, you can't teach your kid that. Your kids must learn the official doctrine, handed down to us from the university professors, all of whom are attempting to engage in their politics. Okay? They are very, very, very explicit about this. This is not something that you can afford to turn away from or walk away from. These people are not going to stop. They're not going to quit. They are not going to take the L and leave you alone because you've said no. These people genuinely believe that it is their right to teach their worldview and ideology to your children. That is what they believe. They believe that your views are wrong, bad, homophobic, bigoted, transphobic, etc., 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 and that you therefore should not be allowed to transmit your ideas and values to your children. Your job is to take care of bedtime and snack time and pack a lunch so that they can imprint their ideology on your kids. That is their goal, and they state this explicitly over and over and over and over. That is what you are up against. This is not something that where you can just politely ask them to stop. This is something that requires action, okay? It requires action and it requires understanding. So before I finish up here, because I've already think I've gone home, Tony's like, no, keep going, it's good. More Lord. Okay. How do you stop it? Well, there's a few things that you need to do to stop it. The first thing we need to do is teach our way out of it. We need to get clear about what they're doing, and we need to make sure that other people are clear on what they're doing. There's a section in a book called Beautiful Trouble, which was written by a guy named Dave Oswald Mitchell, who was at one time Ryan Miley's chief advisor. And in that, there's a section in that book called Make Yourself the Expert. And what it's talking about is, if you want to own the politics of a situation, what the political left does is they make themselves the expert. They go through what Judy Joyce called the long march through the institutions. They go in, they decide they're going to get their teaching degree, they're going to get their master's, they're going to get their PhD, and then once they get into a position of power, either as the professor who trains teacher, or as the principal, or as the superintendent, they then use that position to bring in their ideology. That's the first thing. And you guys need to know about that, and you need to make other people aware of that fact. Okay? That's the first thing that you need to be able to stop, is stop the institutional takeovers. We are conservatives. We tend to want to leave things alone. We want peace. Okay? But they have chosen to break the peace. That's on them. We wanted peace. We wanted everyone to get along. They said, no, we're going to use your schools to teach our ideology. So we don't get to have peace anymore. They're not going to stop. So we don't have the option of just walking away from this now. Okay? We are in for a decade at least of institutional failure and ever-present vigilance because they're not going to let go. So that's the first thing that we need to recognize. The second thing we need to recognize is the way that the media frames this is that we are the problem. And the way that it works is kind of like this. The left goes and starts teaching some vulgar absurdity, like an 8-year-old can select his gender, and then when you notice, hey, these people are teaching our kids that at 8 years old they can change their gender, the media is going to blame you for causing a fight by noticing. You're the problem because you noticed. The left was just marching along and you noticed and said no. And if you hadn't have said no, there wouldn't have been a fight, so you're the cause of the fight. That's how they're going to argue the case. Okay? You need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that there's an entire infrastructure of elite opinion that exists in, how do I put this? There's an entire infrastructure of elite opinion consisting of legacy media outlets, sense-making institutions like universities and colleges, social media companies which want to censor you, and all of those groups are dedicated to making sure that the frame, the ideas, and the language that's used to discuss this is on the side of your opponents. So when the question comes out, as the young woman so artfully explained that, you know, Denmark, Sweden, Finland have all gone way further than us on this and have now tracked back because of how disastrous it was. they will shift the frame from the question of truth, is the gender ideology truth? Is the gender ideology true? And they'll shift the frame to one of tolerance. They're going to, whenever you get them, even by their own standard, what they do is change the terms of the debate and the rules of engagement, and you need to be aware of that fact. That is a deliberate strategy on their part. So the first thing you need to understand is that they're engaged in an institutional takeover of our elite sense-making institution, including media, movies, Hollywood, production studios, art studios, universities, anything that produces culture, journalism, newspapers, social media. That's what they want to take over. And they want to use every single one of our institutions, instead of using it for what it's for example, instead of having, a school that teaches kids how to read, they want to have a school system that teaches kids to accept their ideology. And they are very, very, very explicit about this. Over and over and over, they are very explicit about this. Read Peter McLaren, read Henry Giroux, read any of those people. They will all explain it in very clear terms. Paulo Freire is another one who's very, very explicit about this. Joe Quincello. All of these men have hundreds of thousands of institutions. They have hundreds of publications in the most respected academic journals in the world, and every one of them says that the K-12 education system should be teaching a very, very specific form of left-wing progressive politics. You guys need to know that. The second thing that you need to do is we don't get to go back to grilling. Unfortunately, I just want to grill. I just want to live my life. I just want to be left alone. And the fact of the matter is that the people that want to take over your society are always going to win over the people who just want to be left alone.
Yep.
That's how that's going to work.
Yep. Be vocal.
You have to do something. Get up. Talk to people. The third thing that we have to do, and I'm going to chastise all of you a little bit, is we have to stop being so afraid. Why do we care when they boo us when we have seen the garbage that they are cheering? Why are we ashamed to be called bad people by those who are indoctrinating our children into an evil ideology? Why are we so afraid? They want to spray the social stench of various labels on you to make you look bad. We should stop taking those as a stench and start wearing them as a badge of honor.
Yeah, expel the darkness. Expel that darkness.
We have to stop allowing ourselves to be pushed around, bullied by a group of people that wants to use social pressure tactics to force their ideology down the throats of every single person that lives in our society. That is no longer acceptable. These are like children who have never been told no, and they will have a tantrum the first time they are told no. But we need to still keep telling them no. The default assumption of society needs to stop being that we're tolerantly giving the activists everything we can stand, and that we start being the adults in the room and saying, that's not true, we're not doing that.
No. No.
No is a complete sentence.
Yep. Yep.
I'd like to change your son's gender. No. Not, well, I'm really not a bigot, I'm really not transphobic, and I'm really a nice person, I really want you to like me, but if you could just stop, I'd really...
No.
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 We'd like to teach Marxism to your kid.
No.
No. We'd like to tell your kid that he can have a sex change.
No.
No.
We'd like to bring gender ideology into your classroom.
No.
We'd like to bring socialism into your classroom.
No.
We'd like to tell your kid that he's just a bundle of emotions and that whatever emotion he feels is automatically true.
No.
See how easy that is? Start saying no. No is a very important word. It might be the most important word in the entire English language. No. Simple. 2 letters. N-O. Complete sentence. The last thing you need to do after... Well, if you want to talk about keeping the kids safe, the first thing that happens when a person comes along and tells your kid he's going to change his gender is to tell that person no, because that's how you keep your kids safe. Okay? So, the second thing that we need to do, or the final thing that we need to do, while this gentleman's interrupting me, is we need to make sure that we do not let up. Very often conservatives get one big win and then we walk away. We walk away from the battlefield. We can't do that. The pressure needs to continue. It needs to become greater. We need to realize that all of these institutions have been compromised, and then we need to start shedding a light on this fact. When these people, how can I put it? When a group of political ideologues marches their way to the top of your universities and then uses your universities as sort of a front to launder their bad ideas, those universities are no longer acting as universities. The whole point of education is not complete neutrality with respect to values. It's not anything goes. It's not relativism. It's not your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth. That's not the point. The point is that we have an objective standard of truth which we apply in an even-handed way. And when something is false, we reject it. So given now that the gender ideology has proven so disastrous with increasing number of detransitioners, with the suicide rates of those children who are having gender dysphoria not being alleviated by surgery, it's time to say this ideology that you guys have is false, and it's time to start ejecting it. That's what it's time to do. It's time to stop letting these people take over institutions and then wear them around like a skin suit while demanding respect. Okay? You don't get to take our institutions, kill it, gut it, and then wear the fur skin around like you're that animal. Look, if I kill a bear and I gut it and I wear its suit around, I'm not a bear. When they take over our K-12 schools and stop teaching math and stop teaching reading and stop teaching those things, or instead try to bring politics into every classroom, that's no longer education. We have to stop acting like it is, okay? We are not the attackers of education, we're the ones who are defending it. It's the people who are seeking to politicize education in the name of their ideology. Those are the people who are attacking education, and it's about time that we say so. The falling scores across Canada and across the United States are evidence that the current iteration of social justice education is a complete and total failure, and we have to stop saying that it's not. I'm tired of pretending that it isn't what it is.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely. Yep.
Are we clear? There's no stopping. We're not going to get a break. They're not going to quit. They're not going to stop. I'd like to close by pointing something out which is a little uncomfortable, particularly in front of this audience, and that is the leftists, man, they work. They work and work and work and work and work, and they do not stop, and they work harder than most of us. They spend decades working on whatever issue they hold dear to them, working their way through the schools, working their way through universities, working their way through the bureaucracy. They do not stop. When they hold rallies, they have huge numbers. Why? Because there's people spend hours and hours and hours and hours recruiting people. When they're done their job, they go straight to the activism, 7 days a week. They're winning in part because they're outworking us. That's part of the problem. The lefties in the audience are like, yeah, because they know it. It's absolutely true. Pick up Beautiful Trouble, The Organizational Man. Pick up anything by L.A. Kaufman. Pick up anything by Saul Alinsky. Pick up anything by Jane McElvey, and they will tell you how hard they work. And that is why they win. They're wrong. Their ideas are bad. Their postmodernism is goofy. Their neo-Marxist assumptions hold absolutely no water. Their methods of education teach nothing. But they outwork you. And hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Okay? So you better start working. Because they will beat you. Because they're not going to go home after this and sit around, kick up their feet and watch TV. They're going straight home to do their online activism. They're going to be getting to work on doxing me just as soon as, which is fine, because my boss will give me a raise for this speech. I work with Roosevelt at the Center for Renewing America. I'm going to get a raise for this, okay? So I'm good. But they're not going to stop. They won't. And because they're not going to stop and because they work so darn hard, you're going to have to work hard. Because if you don't, they will win. These people managed to convince the entire school system that a boy could become a girl and make that decision at the age of like 3. That's how hard they worked. That's how hard they worked. If you want to reverse that, you have to work just as hard. And if you don't, they will whoop you. Okay? All right. That's my talk.
Thank you.
This is an example of what it looks like to work hard.
Yeah.
This was hours and 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 hours. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Woo! Yeah.
guys. Your brains are probably fried. That was recorded, so you can probably just find it on my Facebook if you guys like. I just in part want to just say thank you so much again to all of you that supported us, for all of you coming out, all of you just keeping your cool. I just can't tell you how much it means. It was a labor of love. For those of you that know me, I'm not going to stop fighting, and I won't stop fighting until every single one of our children and our people are safe, regardless of race, creed, or color. I will not stop. If you guys need to get a hold of me, again, my name is Tony Wells. You can find me on Facebook. Instagram, I think, is Second Miracle. I'm going to get some hate from my friends over there that just love me. Nothing I haven't dealt with before, so it's okay. But thank you so much. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day, and have a great night. And I hope that this just really empowers you guys to keep the fight up and to say no. So thank you. God bless. Have a great day, guys.